The natural world is really a rainbow of all colors. From peacocks sporting brilliant blues to parrots bedecked with ultramarine feathers, and even monkeys with cerulean scrotums, the blue hues are especially beautiful. When we see creatures like this lizard, the morpho butterfly, the blue cotingas, or blue eyes, we may put two and two together and say, "Ah, that's blue pigmentation right there." And we here at Science Dream say, there probably isn't a lick of blue pigment there. Yeah, that's a really good wrong answer. This may come as a surprise, but almost no vertebrates have blue pigment in their bodies. What we do have is a widely used brown pigment called melanin. Humans in particular have two types of melanin, reddish-yellow pheomelanin and dark brown-black eumelanin. Hair with higher concentrations of eumelanin appears black to brown, while hair containing more pheomelanin can appear red or strawberry blonde. In fact, the reason certain parts of your body are a different color is also because the ratio of pheomelanin and eumelanin present in these areas is different from the rest of your body. Likewise, most of our fellow vertebrates, the birds, also have melanin, but lack the means to make blue or dark green pigments. For instance, the flamingo's pink color comes from a pigment called beta-carotene, which they can't make themselves. Instead, they get it from their food. So, what are all those dazzling colors that birds have? It turns out that it isn't the result of pigment, but of structure. Observing a brilliantly colored bird feather under a microscope, we find that the keratin proteins that make up the feather have a special nanostructure. This structure causes lights of shorter wavelengths to scatter and interfere with each other, making the feather appear blue. We call these types of colors that appear without pigment structural colors. Thanks to light scattering, interference, and superposition properties, we can find structural colors all throughout nature. Despite the sky being devoid of blue pigmentation, light scattering causes it to appear blue, and the ocean follows the same principle too. Even outside of vertebrates, most blues in the animal kingdom don't come from blue pigments. Morpho and blue diadem butterflies, famous for their blue wings, as well as blue tarantulas, all display structural colors. If you magnify the wing of a morpho butterfly under a microscope, you can see this unique shape called a lamella structure. It's this structure that scatters blue light, making the wing appear blue to our eyes. An interesting characteristic of this particular structure is that when a substance like alcohol is poured onto it, it fills the gaps, changing the color dramatically. Another surprise, most of the vivid greens on animals are structural colors. The green feathers on this parrot appear that way because the blue created by the structure of the feathers mixes with a red to yellow pigment in the feathers called psittacofulvin, and adoring the surface of the emerald swallowtail butterfly's wings is a bowl-shaped chitin structure that reflects yellow light from the center and blue light from the side. Now get this, you know what's also structurally colored? Blue eyes. The surface of the iris, which determines the color of the eyes, is composed of a translucent stroma and an epithelial cell layer inside where melanin pigment is distributed. If this epithelial cell layer has a lot of melanin, the iris absorbs more light and looks brown or black. If there is little or no melanin in the epithelial cell layer, blue light is scattered here, making the iris appear blue. Same goes for blue eyes on animals. These are the result of structural color rather than pigment. Even the chameleon, master of color transformation, uses structural color. In the past, we thought that chameleons change their body color by using various pigment cells. But in 2015, Professor Milanikovic of the University of Geneva published a study which showed that changes in the chameleon's body color were caused by changes in the structure of its skin. Their skin cells are made up of several layers, with a pigment cell layer on the outside and a nanostructure skin layer within. These nanostructured skin layers are normally relaxed, but when excited, contract, morphing their structure. The degree of structural change determines the wavelengths of reflected light, Ergo, the color changes. The Hercules beetle also changes its structural color depending on the environment. The beetle's wing casing is covered in a porous structure with a thickness of 5 micrometers. And when the humidity is low, air enters these holes, scattering yellow light. When the humidity is high, water molecules fill the holes, changing the structure and making the wing casings appear black. Now that we've covered a few examples of structural color, let's see what humanity has done with this fascinating phenomenon. A research team at Sogang University has developed a non-electrical hygrometer that changes color based on humidity by mimicking the skin structure of the rhinoceros beetle, and a substance that changes color via electrical stimulation, just like the chameleon. Also, Japanese textile company Teijin mimicked the morpho butterfly's structural color to develop Morphotex, the world's first dye-free blue fabric. Without needing to be dyed, this kind of fabric has the advantage of reducing production costs and eliminating the highly toxic process of industrial fabric waste. And some researchers are also looking for ways to apply the Gloriosa jewel beetle's shiny structural color to paint and anti-counterfeiting strips for banknotes. But after learning all of this, one may begin to wonder, are there any animals with actual blue or green pigment? As always, nature doesn't disappoint. Let's dive underwater. Most blue fish, like the blue tang, glow blue thanks to their structural coloration. But the so-called mandarin fish and its cousin are some of the only vertebrates that produce true blue pigment on their own. In 1995, a pair of scientists, Goda and Fujii, detected blue chromatophores, called cyanoforms, in these two fish. Meanwhile, the South African guinea turako is the only bird known to have real green pigmentation. They have a copper-rich green pigment called turacoverdin, which is synthesized with copper accumulated in their bodies whilst eating fruits and flowers. Scientists estimate that in nature, less than 1% of animals and 20% of plants produce their own blue pigment. Yet, it's not clear why so many organisms evolved their blue structurally, rather than pigmentally. We do have a few theories though. One is that synthesizing blue pigment requires considerable amounts of energy, and in a lot of cases, it simply may have been more efficient to change a surface's structure, rather than evolve a means to make an entirely new chemical. Nature sparkles brilliantly as ever, and now we know why. Light scatterings color the sky and radiate their beautiful hue, blue. Science is a window to the world. This has been Science Dream. Thank you for watching.